I remember, let me just confirm that this is recording, guys, because I'm not used to this. Okay, it's recording. It's recording. I don't want any I don't want any shock. Um yeah, and so this is all important because I remember then going to Mikio with my friend Ray here. Mikio, the lab where tests are done. She followed me to do the tests, and they did a throat swab, and throughout this entire period, like after the whole tetanus ish, they would do a throat swab. A sore throat was also part of the tetanus symptoms, by the way, but the sore throat that I was feeling now was different. Anywho, they would always do a throat swab. Mind you, I had been using antibiotics, prescribed by the way, for over a month because of the tetanus. They would do these throat swabs and the results would come out. And I don't know if you guys have ever done throat swabs, and you know how the results come. They'll say what they found in your throat, then they'll put the different antibiotics that they tested with what they found in your throat, and then by it, maybe they'll say penicillin. They'll put sensitive. That means penicillin works to fight it, to fight the bacteria that they found. Or they'll say rocephin, sensitive. Then maybe they'll say which other antibiotic is there? Cefuroxime. Is that how it's pronounced? Doctors, pharmacists, please pardon me. I don't know how it's pronounced. Is it cefuroxime or cefuroxime or cefuroxime? I don't know, but people know what I'm talking about. The pharmacists and the doctors are people know what I'm talking about. I've never known how to pronounce it. Yeah, or they'll put that, they'll now say resistant. So that means that antibiotic does not work for that bacteria. Before, when they will put it, like the original ones I would get, I will see maybe a few of them will say resistant, but the others sensitive, sensitive, meaning it will work, it will fight the bacteria. This one I got from Mikio, this is after what, maybe a month and a week, or a month and almost 2 weeks. I just opened the paper, the results. Every single, because they wrote it the Auras staphylococcus or something like that. I can't remember what they wrote. Shasha, that's what they found in my throat, according to them, from my phlegm. They now listed all the antibiotics. Then beside it, everything resistant, 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 every damn thing, every single one resistant, 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 resistant. That means, and if you are not getting me, that means that none of the antibiotics work to fight that what they found in my throat. That means the bacteria is resistant to the antibiotic. As soon as I saw it, I just started crying. I'm just like, what am I gonna do? Like, so am I going to die? Because if there is no antibiotic that can fight what is going on with me, what am I really doing? And you can't be on antibiotics for too long, also. That's another thing. Mind you, as me and my friend are in Mercure, I was feeling good. Like I felt energetic. I was not doing bad. My temperature had gone down. My head wasn't pounding anymore. I was just like, you know what? Maybe I'm not even going to the hospital now. Like, I feel decent enough that so maybe when the final test comes out tomorrow, yes, because there was one more test that was meant to results that was meant to come out. Hey, infectable. There was one more test result that was meant to. Oh my God, is that a wall gecko? Oh, there was one more test result that was meant to come out the next day. So I was just like, maybe I'll just wait for that one before going to the hospital. So we headed home. As soon as we got into my apartment, let's say we were on the couch for about 3 minutes talking, my temperature spiked in those 3 minutes of getting home. My temperature spiked and my head was pounding. Like my head was on fire. Like it's like, do me. My head was pounding. My temperature, the sore throat, I was feeling it was kicking me in the throat. I was just like, Sarika, I need to go to the hospital now. She was like, you're feeling ill again? I said, yes. I said, I can't wait. I said, I can't, like, I cannot wait. Mind you, I had been shuffling between sleeping in my room and sleeping in my living room. And so my living room, my duvet was there, everything was there. I was just like, I have to go to the hospital. She walks me to the car and they get in her own car to go home. And I just get in my car with my driver and tell him to drive to our family hospital on the mainland. Usually, like, I shuffle between the hospital I go to on the island and our family hospital on the mainland. So we get to the hospital on the mainland, and I tell the doctor, yes, another doctor that I'm meeting for the first time, because he wasn't the one that treated me, or one of the ones that treated me earlier. I explained everything that's been going on, and he's like, okay, what we're going to do, and I showed them the results. He goes, we're going to admit you. We're going to have to admit you and put you on antibiotics through IV. Yeah, IV is intravascular, isn't it? Sha 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 IV transfusion. Uh-huh. And so I was admitted. I felt somewhat better, but yeah, they were I think they were using the antibiotic that they were using this time around was Rosafine. It's super expensive because even I remember even now this period that I've been treated for this flu that has me sounding like a frog. They put me on Rosafine and it was the most expensive injection in my entire hey god. Anywho, by the third day, the doctors, because each day they'll come and check on you, checking progress and blah blah blah. And I was feeling somewhat better, but we still weren't sure what was going on. And so the doctors, two doctors came into my room and they go, Miss Teniola, we're discharging you today. We're not exactly sure what is wrong with you. My own is, I felt like if doctors don't know what's wrong with me, what's 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 what hope do I really have? Mind you, this entire period, I was just always talking to God and just reminding Him that now how do I get to? Because I don't know what's happening. I was constantly crying in my mom's room or crying in my father's living room, just wondering what the hell is going on. I'm just like, is it my time? I've hardly done anything with my life. Haven't done half the things that I set out to do. Um, is this really how I'm going to go? I'm ill and nobody knows what's wrong with me. First from tetanus, now doctors are saying they don't know what is going on with me and that they are discharging me. Anyhow, as they discharged me, I went to my parents' house. Um, and sore throat and the phlegm were still there. I was still having a fever, but it wasn't as terrible. But I came back with my mom to see one of the doctors, one particular doctor. And I remember him telling me, he said, yeah, that we haven't been able to figure out what is wrong with you, but what I think is that you should see the ENT. That's the ear, nose, and throat doctor. And he made a call and he's like, the ENT doctors come in on Saturday and Sunday. That so please make sure you see them. That I feel like they'll be in the best position to figure out what is wrong. I was like, okay. So we went home. During this period, my dad was so concerned. My dad was extremely concerned. Especially this last time that I was admitted in the hospital. I remember getting to the hospital. And adulthood is so funny. I remember back then, they would force me, like, 10 years ago, I'm feeling ill. It's my mother that will come and carry me. They'll force me to go to the hospital. Now, any little thing, anyhow I'm feeling, I carry myself, enter the car, and I go to the hospital. That's how funny adulthood is. Oh my God, I'm so responsible now. um, but yeah, my dad, I had checked myself into the hospital. Like, I'd gone to see the doctors, and they had admitted me. And this time around, it wasn't my mom that came. This is the one that I'm speaking now on before they came to say, we don't know what's wrong with you. By the second day, my dad came to visit. Because I remember speaking with my mom, and she's like, "Daddy's coming," and I was surprised that she wasn't the one coming. And my dad came to see me. I remember Marianne and Shoma also came to see me that day, um, like maybe an hour after my dad arrived. And my dad sat down. I was in bed with drips connected to me, and my dad sat down on the chair opposite me, like, and he was so concerned. He was so concerned. He was so concerned, and he said something. He asked me, he's like, he said it's in Ondo. Or was it Yoruba? He said no. He said it's in Ondo. And then he said it in English. He's like, are you sure there's nobody that you've offended at work? Are you sure there's nobody you've wronged at work? And I looked at him and I'm like, I don't think so. I said, I don't think so. I mean, I think people like working with me. I don't bring issues on set. I don't fight people on set. I'm not that kind of person. You will know the kind of person I am. And so no, I don't think I've offended anyone. Because you know when they say I ain't share, or I think that's what at this time that's what everybody was thinking. Because everybody's wondering what is really going on. Yeah, when they say I ain't share or won't share, they will not share you, and I will not share you in Jesus' name. Say amen. But at this time, everybody was concerned because we didn't know what was going on. And so I told my dad, I don't think I've offended anyone. Um, but even me, I was now starting to think, did I offend anyone? Did somebody want to use my name to do something? But I'm just like, I'm a child of God, I beg. Nobody can use my name to do anything. Um, and so yeah, like I said, he was very concerned. But he was always praying for me. He was always there for me. I mean, he was also going through his own stuff. It hadn't gotten to like the the really, really but yeah. Um I went to see ENT, the ENT doctor on a Saturday. And I remember this consultation wasn't more than it couldn't have been more than 9 minutes at the most. And I remember of course, I had written everything that had been going on with me over the last 1.5 months. And I said, would you mind if I read it to you, or would you prefer to read it yourself? And he's like, I should read it to him. So I read everything to him, and this man looks at me and he says, first of all, he looks at my throat. He glances at my throat. Then he says, have you been in a damp area recently? I said, damp area. I said, well, during this period where I was ill with tetanus, I was getting treated, and I wasn't in my home. So for that entire month, I was in the hospital as well as my parents' house on the mainland. So no, I wasn't at home. And when I got home, I found out that my apartment had flooded. He said, that's most probably the issue. I said, eh? This man wrote me a prescription of allergy pills. Excuse me. He wrote me a prescription of allergy pills, antihistamines, and what else? That was it. Antihistamines, allergy pills, loratadine. Maybe it wasn't even loratadine, maybe it was something else. But he basically wrote me that prescription, said they'll give it to me in the pharmacy, and said, stay away from your apartment for 4 days and let's see what happens. I said, huh? So yeah. I walked out of that man's office thinking he was full of shit. I thought he was full of shit. Because I'm just like, ṣé gbọ́ nǹkan tí mò ń sọ? I've been battling this thing for how many weeks now? This was right now. This wasn't even a month and a half. This was almost 2 months. This was almost 2 months. It was, yeah, it was almost 2 months. I'm like, I've been battling. I battled tetanus for 1 month. This one, I'm battling it for another. Is it part of the tetanus? Because now I'm confused. Ẹ dẹ̀ sọ pé kí n mu loratidine, kí n dẹ̀ jáde nílé. And oh, you think that'll make me feel better? So I got home that day. Temperature was still running. I remember I would gargle with salt water in the night and it wouldn't make a difference. But I got home. My friend James, shout out James, Mokwe. James checked on me. I think he was going for a meeting. And then as soon as he said, "Tell your temperature is terribly high." He said, "Why are you in your house alone?" I'm like, who am I going to bother? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not feeling great. He said, "There's no reason why you should be alone in your house and you feel this way. He just said, you're coming to the house." Called his wife, called Fatima, my guy. Like James and Fatima, they've been there in periods of my life where I needed support, I needed help, I needed, no, my guys for real, like their family. And so he calls Fatima, is like, Tenny is coming to the house, so please tell her, force her to come. Fatima calls me and she's like, "Why are you alone? Why are you alone in the house? Come to the house now." Um, so I ate my lunch, or was it dinner? I think it was dinner. And I told her I'll come the next day. I ate my dinner and then I took one of the allergy pills that the ENT gave me. And I felt relief within a couple of minutes. And in that moment, I'm like, what's happening? And that's when I was like, wait, he said I should actually leave this house. Maybe he actually does know what he's talking about. So he said I should leave this house for 4 days. So I'm like, okay. James and Fatima said I should come. Let me go and be with James, Fatima, and Tobias. I went to spend time with Fatima and Tobias. I was in their house. And I felt better. I wasn't 100, but I felt better during this period, because now it seemed like the ENT doctor knew what he was saying. I started Googling a bunch of things, Googling TikToks. The amount of information that I saw scared me, because I'm just like, so truly, truly, mold is the issue. I read people who had been living in their houses and they were falling ill, getting sick for months, and they had no idea why they were ill. They had no idea. They would be in the emergency room every month, and doctors could not figure out that what was killing them was mold allergies, was mold toxicity. There's this American actress, Tori Spelling, and excuse me, Tori Spelling and her family, I think they bought a home in the US, and she and her kids were constantly falling ill. She also was getting ill, but not as much as her kids. Her kids had to be like, sometimes they couldn't go to school because they were so ill, until they found out after months that it was because there was mold hidden behind like the floorboards and the walls of their house. So I was reading all these articles and watching these YouTube videos and watching these TikToks of, I remember some roommates, they were flatmates. I think flatmates or roommates. Let's say roommates. They found out they were falling ill and they couldn't figure it out. But then I think they then got their flat tested and it had high levels of mold in the house. And so they had to leave the house. They couldn't move with anything, guys. They could not move with Jack. They had to throw out their books. They had to throw out their clothes. They had to throw out their couch, their mattress. They could not move with one single thing because the mold has seeped into everything. So as I was reading about these and watching these, all the symptoms were just lining up. Every single one was just lining up. And I'm like, my hair was falling out. The girls, they said their hair was falling out. They would wake up and see their hair on their sheets. Their hair was falling out. And as soon as they moved, like maybe it took like maybe a few weeks for everything to clear because it's in your system now. It doesn't just go just like that. It's in your system. So it took them a couple of weeks to then get back to normal. I was reading these, I was watching, and I'm just like, are you telling me this is what is going? And with every passing day, I was feeling somewhat better, but I was still weak. I was still weak. And I remember um going to when I started realizing that this was the issue, I remember um going to the house. Like thankfully my lease. First of all, I stayed at Fatima's um James and Fatima's for maybe a week until I left. I wasn't feeling great, but I was feeling better than I felt when I was in my house. But it was then that we realized there's mold in my home, and I'm allergic to mold. It's mold toxicity, and what I've been told is that because my immunity was super low. My immune system was compromised because of the tetanus and because of being treated for the tetanus, because of taking antibiotics for over a month. My immune system was so compromised. So I was very susceptible to the mold because I've never been allergic to mold ever. This allergy just started in 2023. In certain parts of my father's house, I can't even stay there because there's some mold there. The only person's room that I can stay in right now is my father's room. When I go to my parents' house, I sleep in my father's room because that's the only room that I know I won't have a pounding headache, I won't have a temperature, I won't have a sore throat. There are certain parts of the house, like if I sleep in my mom's room, I will have a sore throat, my head will start pounding. If I stay in the main living room, my the headache will start showing itself. Um, but during this entire period, we just realized you're allergic to mold, and that is what is in your apartment. That is why you are sick. That's after the tetanus. It was it was a shocking revelation to me. But first of all, I'm so thankful that my lease was almost up. I wasn't gonna move. I was pretty fine there. It was my house. I didn't used to enter traffic. It was in Lekki One. Was somewhere off Freedom Way. So it was very central. I need to get to a restaurant, I'm there. I need to get to work, I'm there. I'm coming back from set, I'm like no traffic. But after this happened, I'm just like, I have to move. And so I told the house manager, and house manager, of course now, house manager said, no, it can't be. These. Because apparently my house had been damp, mold had grown in my house. And that is what I was reacting to. That is why I was sick. That is why I was terribly sick. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm not renewing my rent. So my plan was to go home and pack my things and leave the house. So I bought a bunch of Ghana goes, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll just go and pack. I stayed in my friend's house for I don't even know how long, maybe a few days, and then I asked him if I could stay until I found a new place. Michael, Onomejo, my G, my guy. I love you too much, man. And he's like, till whenever, stay till whenever, please. And so he's like, I'll come and help you pack. I got to the house first. I wore a mask. That was my plan. I wore a mask thinking that, I wouldn't be breathing in the mold spores. My people, my people. I was in that house for 10 minutes. My head started pounding. I started feeling extremely tired, and I started having a temperature. My temperature was rising. And I was just like, I'm wearing a mask. I still don't even understand it. I don't know if it's because some people say the skin as well. Like it's not just breathing through your nose. Within 10 minutes, I couldn't take it anymore. And I was just like, Michael, I can't do this. I'm extremely tired. I'm reacting to this shit. And we went into the car, and then I called my mom. I'm just like, Mommy, I'm unable to pack. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I wore the mask like I said I would, but I'm unable to pack. She said, don't worry, I'll send people to help you pack. And so she sent her driver and her housekeeper to help me pack. Lifesavers. Like they were lifesavers. And they came and helped me pack, I think the next day. And they packed all my stuff and packed it into Ghana must goes and boxes and packed them into a van. And all my things were moved to my parents' house. But here's the kicker: a number of things. And my dad was saying, am I certain it needs to be done? I'm like, I can't afford to live with these things because I will still be falling ill. Like from everybody that I've read that has dealt with this, mostly Caucasians, um, mostly Caucasians or Americans or people in first world countries, not in third world countries, they figured out this was the issue, and they had to throw out their clothes, throw out their books, throw out their furniture because it had seeped into them. So a number of my clothes were thrown away. I didn't even feel comfortable giving um, giving them out because it's like giving your problem to somebody else. What if you're giving that other person, and the person too is reacting to this mold, and they don't know that's the issue? I dashed my couch out. I dashed it out. Um, my what else? My books. A lot of my books, I couldn't take them as well. But there was this one painting. It was a painting that I had been painting. It wasn't done, but I was just like, I'm sure I can deal with this one thing. It wouldn't be bad. So I washed that painting because it was oil paint. It was oil paint. I washed it. I washed the back. I washed the front. And I was like, I'll bring it to my new house, but I wouldn't, like, I'll finish painting it while I'm in my new house. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you that I moved to my new house, my new apartment, not house. House is coming in Jesus' name. Amen. I moved to my new apartment about a year and a half ago, and this painting followed me to this house. It was hanging here. The period when my dad died, when my dad passed, I was away from this house for about 2 weeks. I was in my family house, and when I got back, I realized that anytime I was on this couch, my temperature would start rising and I would have a headache, and I didn't understand why. And I was telling my siblings and my mom that I feel like there's now mold in my present house and I don't know where it is. Like I was looking for it, but I don't know where it is. At some point, it got bad. Like within 2 weeks, I was just like, what is going on? And I was searching. I was searching behind cupboards, behind my couch. I would search here. I would clean and clean until I looked at this painting. This painting was here. It was 6 by 6, 6 feet by 6 feet. I looked at this painting. It was on this wall. This wall is empty. I'm not sure if you can see it. I don't think so. But this wall, and I looked at it. I was seated here and I looked at it and I'm just like, is the mold on this painting? Ladies and gentlemen, I stood up and I lifted the painting from off the wall and turned it around. If you see mold, God of mercy, behind, I'm getting goosebumps. Behind the painting, it was bad. And in that moment, I was just like, no wonder I've been having a headache and my temperature would rise every time I'm just laying on this couch watching TV or reading a book or something. And so in that moment, I threw out the painting. I had to. As much as I wanted to finish it, I just had to throw out the painting. And so I told our utility manager in the building at the time, I'm like, I beg, just help me throw it out. Don't dash anybody. Don't give anybody. Don't give somebody problem. Just help me throw it out. And they did. Um, but after all this happened, I remember talking about it with my dad and us just really puzzled about it and about how much damage it had done, and how we didn't know what was wrong. If not for that ENT doctor, me that I thought the man was talking rubbish. I really thought that man was talking trash. Look at God. It's God that sent that man to me. Um, because I remember I would be crying in my parents' house. I remember a bunch of times in the middle of the night, I would just be crying. My mom would come and meet me and pet me on. She'll be like, "Are you not a child of God? But don't worry, things will be okay. Things will be fine. That you'll be well. You'll be well again. God will heal you." And then we'd pray together. And my dad as well. My dad, like we've spoken about it. We had spoken about it a number of times, like all that had happened with mold and everything. And my dad said, "You ought to, you ought to tell people about this. You ought to use your platform." He said, "You ought to use your platform to educate people about this. That there are so many people that are living in houses that are infested with mold, and they don't know. Some can't even see it. Sometimes you may not see it. Some can't even see it. They're ill. Their children are falling sick. Parents are falling sick." There was one story I even read. I shared with my dad in the U.S. A kid died from mold toxicity. Like he was constantly falling sick, but he eventually died. Um, that so many people are going through this, but they have no idea this is what is causing them to be ill. Like some people think it's a spiritual problem. Some people think I want you some people think their enemies are after them, their village people are after them. Meanwhile, they have no idea that it's mold. Right now, and it's funny, but it's not funny. When I enter a building or I enter a room that has mold, I know within 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is a stretch. I know within the first couple of minutes, but 5 minutes, let's just say 5 minutes, because my throat starts acting up. I start having that peculiar sore throat that I have, and my head starts pounding. And then I start feeling tired all of a sudden for no reason, for seemingly no reason. I start feeling extremely tired. And then my temperature starts rising. If I leave that room or I leave that building within the next 10 minutes, 5 minutes even, I'm fine. As far as I don't spend like the entire period there, I'm fine. And when this entire thing happened, I didn't, because I had been living in that apartment, I didn't immediately feel better just because I left the building or left the apartment. It took a minute. I remember having to like follow a bunch of people that had survived mold toxicity. I was taking probiotics. I was taking activated charcoal pills because a number of people and number of holistic doctors, wellness people would suggest, and some doctors as well would suggest that you take activated charcoal for a period of time just so that they take the toxins in your body out. So I was taking a bunch of that, but it took a decent amount of time before I was myself. It took like a month, maybe even more, before I was truly myself and had to drink a lot of fluids. That was a period I do not wish on anybody. I promised my dad that I would make this video, so this is me sticking to that promise. Um, the anniversary of my dad's passing is approaching. My dad passed June 21st, 2024, last year. And it's about to be a year that he's been gone. And I miss him. I miss him a lot. I miss him a lot. I'm like my dad in a lot of ways. Like my dad in a lot of ways. I'm very emotional. I'm an overthinker. I'm over analytical. Those are my flaws. But there are things I have in common with him.
But yeah, I promised him that I would do this video, and this is me keeping to my promise. This is me keeping to my promise. So this video, excuse me.